Wellness Country. This is Will, and I did the anatomy and physiology of the respiratory system. So this is my poster. I think you can see it good. So looking at it first glance, I made a person and made a diagram of the respiratory system and labeled as many parts as I could from that system. And I tried going more in depth by these tiny little side photo things right here. First, I divided the respiratory system in two parts, the upper and lower respiratory tract. And the upper respiratory tract is a lot more important because it has a lot more functions. So for example, they filter air, produce sound from your mouth, and they regulate body temperature. They provide sense of smell, and importantly, they aid immune response. And the lower respiratory tract is actually a lot more simple. So the upper respiratory tract, their job is to provide air for the lower respiratory tract to literally do their job. So then the lower respiratory tract, they'll release oxygen that's inhaled, and they will actually absorb the oxygen and release carbon dioxide in exchange. Looking at all these parts, not all of them are important when it comes in terms of the physiology of the respiratory system. The poster is mostly about anatomy, and I'm here to mostly explain physiology. So you start breathing air, mostly through your nose. You could through your mouth, but this time it's through your nose. It'll go through your nasal cavity and literally go through your system, through larynx, any of these, right here, and then they'll go all the way to your lungs. So this is where I'm going to start talking about the 5 steps of the physiology of the respiratory system. So first comes ventilation. There are 2 types of ventilation. One is inhalation and one is exhalation. So this one, you breathe in, you breathe out. So inhalation is the process that begins when the person breathes in. So the diaphragm, I don't know how it's pronounced. It's somewhere on my poster. And basically, it's a dome-shaped muscle that's below the lungs. It's down here, and it contracts while the intercostal muscles between the ribs expand the chest cavity. So you know how you breathe in, and your chest feels it expanding is because you're taking in oxygen as you breathe. So this expansion lowers air pressure in the lungs, causing air to be drawn through the nose and the mouth. So the next one after inhalation is exhalation. This is the exact opposite. It's when you breathe out air. So this literally occurs as the diaphragm, I don't know how to pronounce it, and intercostal muscle relax, you just relax, reducing the chest cavity volume, which means that basically means not much pressure into your chest. You just repeat. It's literally how you breathe. It's common sense. You just you know. So next I want to talk about the air passage on how the air actually goes through your lungs. So here, when you inhale air, it will go through the nostrils or the nasal cavity or the mouth. Could be that, and it travels to your pharynx, also known as the throat. I wrote it somewhere there. So from the pharynx, the air passes through the larynx, which is called the voice box, which help produce sound, and into the trachea, which is the windpipe. So the trachea further divides into 2 bronchi, one for each lung, which branches to smaller bronchi. So right here, it will split into 2, and then that's how each one will provide for its own lung, and it will spread to help keep your body maintained well and healthy. All right, step 3 is actually gas exchange. So the bronchioles, all the way right here, this is a bronchiole right here. So it's it's a branch that comes out of these tracheas that split apart after splitting for each lung. So what these do, they lead tiny air sacs called alveoli. So which is where the actual gas exchange occurs. This is where the step 3 actually takes place. And oxygen from inhaled air diffuses across thin alveolar walls into adjacent capillaries, binding to hemoglobin in red blood cells. I didn't try to specify too much in that, but I did draw this. Oxygen from inhaled air diffuses across the alveolar walls and into adjacent capillaries, which bind in the hemoglobin in red blood cells. So these oxygen-loaded blood cells are then transported into body tissues. This really helps the body. Simultaneously, carbon dioxide was then produced by cells and carried by the bloodstream to the alveoli, which is right here, which then diffuses out and then is exhaled. So right here, I talk about the oxygen traveling through the blood and how the oxygenated blood is transferred to the heart, and I just labeled a few parts that actually help that process and how it help it function. So I actually explained 4 over here because I talked about the bronchioles into a more depth analysis, this tiny part right here, and it goes all the way down here. This is a very tiny part. This is called the alveoles. So basically what these do is in the lungs, carbon dioxide is expelled from the bloodstream into the alveoli to be exhaled. This is while you're exhaling. And then oxygen-rich blood returns to the heart, which pumps it into various body tissues, supplying cells with oxygen for energy production. All right, step 5 is actually regulation. So this is the very last step. So the rate and depth of breathing are controlled by respiratory centers in the brainstem. This one was a little too complicated to show, but it's primary in the medullus and pons. I didn't really put this on my poster because it's not as important as the other steps, but it's good to mention. So these centers, they monitor the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood and adjust the respiratory rate and depth to maintain a balanced environment in this person's body, just to keep it going stuff. So that is the anatomy and physiology of the respiratory system. So if you want to take a look at the anatomy poster right here and how I split it into 2 respiratory tracts. and then I just explained the physiology because I didn't have enough space to do it. So thank you.